In this video, I'll share a few of my favorite SEO tips for Squarespace. If you follow this advice, your website will be seen by more people without lifting a finger. Let's start with the basics. Number 1, pick a keyword. The first step to mastering SEO is to think about keywords. Ask yourself, what word or phrase will people type into Google to find your specific page? For example, if you teach ceramics, your homepage keyword might be online pottery classes. Even though a search may feature different tails, your core keyword will remain the same. If you properly identify the right keywords, you could potentially rank for a wide variety of different searches related to the topic of your page or site. Number 2, long tail keywords. In the world of Squarespace SEO, there are two different types of keywords: long tail keywords and short tail keywords. Short tail keywords are keywords that have a very broad focus, like productivity tips. Long tail keywords, on the other hand, focus on specific topics by adding additional words to the keyword, like productivity tips for college students. A long tail keyword could hypothetically be as long as you want. However, the longer your keyword tail, the less people will search for that specific term each month. It is typically way more beneficial for new or small businesses to target long-tail keywords, as larger companies typically don't have the resources to justify creating hyper-specific content. When someone searches a long-tail keyword and comes across a great content piece that is specifically targeted to that subject, they will become a mega fan of your brand for life. I always recommend targeting long-tail keywords in the early stages of your website. One of my favorite ways to create content for small sites is to simply add extra keywords to the end of a popular search term to make the content specific and focused. For example, I could have named this video SEO tips, as most of the tips found here are the same tips that would apply to any website. But I know that larger brands dominate the search results for such a broad term. As a result, I've decided to niche down and add one extra level of specificity to my video and article with the hopes of ranking in a less competitive niche. You can do the same with your site. Number 3, understand domain authority and page authority. Marketers have tried to communicate how Google will rank a page by creating two terms: page authority and domain authority. Page authority is how well a specific page or blog post is positioned to rank in Google. If you follow all of the steps listed in this video, your pages will have fantastic page authority. In contrast, domain authority is the SEO power of an entire website. Domain authority is the reason why a website like the New York Times can quickly rise to the top of a search result. It will take time for you to build up domain authority on your website. Number 4, use keyword synonyms. In addition to your primary keyword targets, you should also remember to use synonyms for your keyword to help your page be seen by visitors who type in a slightly different query into Google. For example, if your target keyword was Christmas candles, you might also include holiday candles or candles for winter throughout your page. By using synonyms, you will help to make your pages more discoverable for a variety of search terms and increase the overall readability of your content. Now it's time to talk about site-wide SEO strategies in Squarespace. Number 5, expand your site title. The title of your website is what Google will display when it lists out your site in search results. In addition to your website name, you should include the target keyword you want to achieve for your entire website, which is usually your product or service. For example, if you had a company that sold Southern California travel itineraries, you could quickly insert your company name and say Los Angeles Travel Guides at the end. These results help your title look more full and relevant in Google search results. To customize the site title in Squarespace, navigate to Marketing and click SEO. Under the SEO title format menu, you can add more information to expand the way your title appears in search results. I like to use a dash and then list out my website's keyword. Number 6, add a site description. A site description is simply the gray text that appears below your site's title. It's usually best to include your website's keyword and a synonym in your description. To edit your site's description, go to Marketing SEO, and edit the text under SEO site description. Number 7, create a custom URL. A custom URL looks way better than the default Squarespace URL on your Squarespace site. To create your own custom URL, navigate to Settings, Domains, and select Get a Domain. You can purchase your domain using the menu. I always recommend getting a .com domain if you can. Number 8, change your default social sharing image. A custom social image for your website will make your pages more appealing when shared on social media. To customize the social image for your homepage, navigate to Design and click Social Sharing. You can now upload an image that will be used as the default sharing image for your website pages when you share them out on social. If you don't have a custom social image, you can create one in Canva. They have great templates that you can use for your website. Tip number 9, update your 404 page. If someone types in a URL that doesn't exist, they will land on a 404 page. The default 404 page in Squarespace is pretty boring, which means people will likely leave the page if they land on it. That's not good. Squarespace allows you to create a custom 404 page. All you have to do is create a new page and include various links to content and resources around your site. Once you've created a page, you can change your default 404 page in Squarespace. Just navigate to Design, click 404 page, and select your custom 404 page from the drop-down menu. Tip number 10, make sure SSL is enabled. To enable SSL encryption in Squarespace, go to Settings, select Advanced, and select SSL. Make sure that the Secure box is checked. Tip number 11, register your site with Google Search Console. Google Search Console is a free tool that allows you to manage the way in which your website is seen by Google. To register your site with Google Search Console, simply do the following steps. Create a free Google account. Log in and register a free Google Search Console account. In Squarespace, navigate to Analytics, click Search Keywords, click Connect in the pop-up menu, log in with your account, click Allow. It will take a little time for Google to populate data and connect the account. But once your site is connected, you'll be able to see specific search data directly in Squarespace. Tip number 12, submit a sitemap to Google Webmaster Tools. If you don't submit a sitemap, Google may not find all of the pages on your website. Squarespace automatically creates a sitemap for your website. In order to register your sitemap, just follow the following steps. Click Sitemaps in Google Search Console. Type sitemap.xml under Add a new sitemap. Click Submit. It will take some time for your sitemap to be indexed and reviewed. Tip number 13, troubleshooting individual page SEO problems. You can use the URL inspection tool in Google Search Console to fix any SEO problems with specific pages. To use the URL inspection tool, simply navigate to URL inspection, type in the full URL for the page you want Google to inspect, click Enter, click Request Indexing. This is a great way to ensure that your pages are being scanned properly. Tip number 14, create a Google My Business page. If you run a business that serves a specific location, it's really important to set up a Google My Business page. This will allow your company to be seen for location-based searches, which typically take priority over regular websites in SEO. To add a Google My Business page listing in Squarespace, click Marketing, click Location Management, select Create New Location. Type in your business name, type in your business location. If your business offers deliveries or local services, select the Service Area button and add your service areas below. You could turn off the Show Address and Listing if you don't want your physical location to be seen. Add a primary category for your company. You can add up to 9 more subcategories if you desire. Type in your contact information. Type in your hours. Type in a short description of your business. Upload a logo or image. Select Connect to Google My Business. You can manage the listing further from the Google My Business dashboard, which will be connected to your Google account. With our site-wide SEO strategies behind us, let's talk about SEO practices that you should implement on specific pages and blog posts. Tip number 15, create great titles. Creating a great SEO title is all about balancing SEO strategies with empathy. Over time, these processes will become second nature. But for now, try following these tips. Number 1, select a great keyword. Every page and post on your site should have a keyword that you are trying to target. Before you develop your title, try to decide on what your specific keyword will be. Number 2, write in second person. People like to read article titles that include the word you. This tip also applies to article body copy. Try to write the articles and titles specifically in second person so it resonates with your audience. Number 3, use power words. Power words are simple words that have a greater punch. A power word gives more life to your titles, making them more clickable for your audience. You can find a link below this video to over 400 incredible power words that you can use on your website. Number 4, use prime numbers. People are supernaturally drawn to prime numbers. I always recommend having an odd numbered list if you include numbers in your title. Number 5, use parentheses and brackets. If you have extra information that you'd like to appear in your title, I always recommend using a bracket or parentheses. I typically will include my lead magnet in parentheses. Number 6, include the date. People want to make sure the content they consume is relevant and up to date. If you are in a competitive niche, I recommend adding in a rough date of publication to a blog post. The more competitive your keyword, the more specific your date should be. Tip number 16, create and test your custom title. To see if your title is too long, simply go to the gear icon next to the page you are trying to edit and select the SEO button in the menu. You can now type in your page title. If it's too long, you may have to remove some text. Tip 17, remove the default site title tag. I always like to remove the default site title extension from my titles so I can have more customization. It also prevents ugly ellipses if the title gets too long. To remove the site name from your page's default SEO description in Squarespace, click Marketing, click SEO, select Pages from Search Appearance. Now remove everything except for the %P tag. This will remove your site's title from being automatically appended to your new page titles. But don't worry, if you want to add in your site's title to the end of a page title, you can just type it in by hand. Tip number 18, titles for products. To edit the SEO title of a product in Squarespace, select the product you wish to edit, click SEO, and change the SEO title. You can also remove the way in which Google appends the site title to the end of a product by clicking Marketing, SEO, and select Items under Search Appearance. Just like before, simply remove everything except for the %I from the SEO title format box. Tip number 19, SEO descriptions. An SEO description is the small gray sentence that appears below your page title in a Google search listing. If you don't tell Google what you want to appear here, Google will guess, but that's not ideal. A good SEO description should include your keyword and a synonym for your keyword. To edit your SEO description in Squarespace, click on the gear icon next to the page or post that you want to edit and click on SEO. You can now type in your short description. The box above will tell you if the description gets too long. Tip number 20, heading structures. Good headings greatly increase your chances of appearing in a Google search result. Your page headings should be broken down into logical titles, just like those found in an essay outline. I don't recommend using an H1 in a blog post, as an H1 is usually reserved for a site title which is automatically tagged in Squarespace. You should, however, use an H1 as the title of a generic page if there isn't already a title at the top of your page. If you want to rank for snippets, the most important thing to remember is to have your headings stand on their own. Your headings should be able to answer your readers' questions without them having to navigate inside the post itself. Tip 21, reduce image sizes. A large component of SEO is simply how fast your page loads. One of the best ways to decrease your page load time is to simply reduce the size of your images. And one of the easiest ways to avoid using images that are too big is to simply not use the Unsplash integration that is built into Squarespace. I like to use Canva to save my images to a smaller size. Typically, I'll just create a canvas that is a reasonable size, like 1000 by 1500, and upload my images. A good rule of thumb is to save your pictures as a JPEG and your graphics as a PNG. For technical reasons, this will reduce your file sizes without creating weird artifacting around your graphic edges. 22. Include keywords in image names. Before you upload your image to Squarespace, it's a good idea to rename your images to include a keyword. My favorite way to do this is to simply give my image a name that describes exactly what the image is. Once complete, I will add a keyword to the end of my title by selecting all of the images and selecting Rename. I'll then select Add Text and Before Name from the drop-down menus. I will then add in my keyword and select Rename. This will bulk rename your images so they have a greater chance of appearing in search results related to your keyword. Tip 23, add alt tags to your images. Alt tags are small little tags that describe what your image is all about. To edit the alt tag of an image in Squarespace, simply find the image you wish to change and select Edit. Now change the file name of your image to include both your keyword and the contents of the image itself. Tip 24, links to your site's content. Google wants to see that your entire website is a web of interconnected content. The best way to show Google that your website is a web of connected content is to simply link between pages as it makes sense. If you wrote an article that is related to the topic of a new article, link to it. Try to think about clever ways to link to pages around your site. Tip 25, outbound links or links to other people's websites. In addition to internal links, you should always try to include outbound links to other great websites. While it may seem counterintuitive, this will actually help your website seem more generous and authoritative to Google. Tip 26, link with keywords. When you link to pages around your site, try to link using the keywords that the linking page is trying to rank for. This also goes for outbound links from your website to other websites as well. Tip 27, custom URL slugs. You should always customize the URL of your page or post before publishing in Squarespace. A URL should be simple and incorporate the important keywords you are trying to target. For example, our page about Squarespace tips has the simple URL slug Squarespace-tips because that was the target keyword for that post. To edit the URL of a page in Squarespace, go to the Pages menu and select the gear icon next to the page you wish to edit. Now, simply change the URL to whatever makes sense for your page. The same process is true for blog posts as well. To change the URL of a blog page in Squarespace, find the blog post in the Pages menu. Select Edit, select Options, and change the URL. Tip 28, create a redirect if you change a URL. If you ever change the URL of a page after it is already published and live on your website, you will need to create a redirect in Squarespace so users who try to visit the page at the old URL address will find the new page. To create a redirect in Squarespace, select Settings from the home page, click Advanced, and click URL Mappings. For permanent redirects, do the old URL slug, do dash, greater than sign, and then type in the new URL slug, and type in 301. For temporary redirects, you can do slash, include the old URL slug, do dash, greater than sign, and then type in the new URL slug and type in 302. In most instances, you will want to use a 301 redirect, so use the code that ends in 301. Click Save. You'll find the specific code for redirect formatting below this video. Tip 29, review for grammar. Google's bots can scan text to find both misspellings and incorrect grammatical structures, which can hurt your SEO. My strategy for optimizing the grammar of my pages is to do the following. Step number 1, write all of my copy in Google Docs. I like to use Google Docs to write all of my website content as it has the built-in grammar tools that are managed by Google's algorithm. Step number 2, use the Grammarly extension. I use Grammarly's free Chrome extension to review potential grammar mistakes as well. It's a vital tool for anyone who writes, and it's also free to use, so why not install it? Step number 3, read your copy out loud. One of the easiest ways to check your grammar is to simply read your article or website copy out loud to yourself. Tip 30, increase dwell time. This is an expert level SEO tip that is extremely underrated. so pay close attention. The more time people spend on a page, the more Google believes your page is relevant to your audience. Here are a few of my favorite strategies for increasing the amount of time people spend on my Squarespace pages. Technique number 1, create long posts. One of the best ways to get people to spend more time on a page is to simply add more text. This goes for any page, from blog posts to product pages. The more text you add to your page, the greater the chance that your audience will stick around for longer. Also, the longer they stick around, the more trust will be developed between you and your audience. Technique number 2, embed videos. Videos are a great way to increase the amount of time people spend on your page. I typically will always try to embed videos on my pages, even if I didn't create the video. In fact, I'll typically take it one step further and embed videos from people who might be willing to share my page once it goes live into the world. To embed a video in Squarespace, simply select the video block and paste the video's URL. Technique number 3, embed audio. Squarespace has an audio block where you can upload podcasts, interviews, or audio clips. However, if I am embedding a podcast, I will typically get the HTML code from the podcast host, like Podbean, and use the HTML block in Squarespace to embed the audio player. I don't use the Squarespace audio block for my podcast, but that is just my own personal preference. In this next section, we're going to talk about a few of my favorite SEO research tools. Tip number 31, answer the public. One of the biggest challenges when developing a solid SEO plan is knowing which terms to target. That's where Answer the Public comes into play. This tool allows you to type in a keyword and see the most common questions, prepositions, and alphabet-based searches for the term. I use this tool all the time. Tip 32, keywordtool.io. Keywordtool.io is another fantastic tool for figuring out what is popular in your niche. To use the tool, simply type in your keyword and you'll see a cascade of popular terms. The free version is limited, but if you're feeling inspired, I definitely recommend getting the paid version. Tip 33, Ahrefs. Ahrefs is my favorite SEO tool. It's also super expensive. By using Ahrefs, you can do everything from tracking SEO performance of terms on your website all the way to keyword research from your competitors. Ahrefs offers an affordable trial that will allow you to use their features for only a few dollars. I definitely recommend trying out the trial to do some keyword research for content planning. Tip 34, set up Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is an all-in-one place where you can inject important tracking codes to your website without editing the code of your website every time. To install Google Tag Manager, create a Tag Manager account on Google. Under Account Name, type in the name of your company. Under Container Name, type in the URL of your website. Select Web, click Create. Click Yes under Terms of Service, after you've read it, of course. You will now see a pop-up box with 2 code snippets. Open a new tab with your Squarespace site. In Squarespace, go to Settings, Advanced, Code Injection. Paste the top code snippet in the header box, paste the bottom code snippet in the footer box, and click Save. Google Tag Manager is now installed on your website. Tip 35, install Google Analytics. As a website owner, you need to know how your website is performing to see if your marketing work is helping your website achieve its goals. While there are some decent reports inside of Squarespace, I recommend installing Google Analytics on your site so you can get more detailed reports on your website's performance. With Google Analytics, you can track everything from the location of your audience to the specific behaviors that they take on your website. Get your site's tracking code in Google Analytics by navigating to Settings, Property, Setup Assistant, and select Tag Installation. Select your tag from the list. If you can't see the tag, create a new stream. Now, copy your measurement ID. Go to Google Tag Manager and select Add a new tag. Select the Google Analytics GA4 configuration. Paste your measurement ID into the box. Under the Triggering section, select All Pages. Click Save. Click Submit. Under Version Name, say Add Google Analytics, and click Publish. It might take a couple of days for data to begin populating on your website, But once your tag is officially live, you can log in to Google Analytics to review helpful data. Tip 36, navigating Google Analytics. If you love numbers and data, Google Analytics is your new home away from home. Here are a few of my favorite features in Google Analytics. Number 1, the Realtime Menu. If you click on the Realtime Menu and select Overview, you can see a real-time breakdown of what pages are popular on your site. This is a great tool for watching your website's performance in real time. Number 2, the Audience tab. If you click on Audience and Overview, you can see a breakdown of your audience on your site. This is where you can see helpful information like the language of your audience, your most popular countries, your average number of users, and more. Number 3, the Acquisition tab. It's always important to know how your audience is finding your website. If you click on Acquisition and Overview, you will see a detailed breakdown of the specific ways in which people are finding your site. As an SEO-minded website owner, the hope is for your organic search numbers to continue to grow. Number 4, the Behavior tab. If you click on Behavior and Overview, you can see a breakdown of the page views and specific pages that are doing well on your site. I personally like to sort by page title, as it lumps together URLs that include tracking code extensions into the same page. Number 5, comparing to previous periods. If you want to get an idea on how well your site is growing, you can select the date range in the top right corner and select Compare To. This will allow you to compare your current data to data from a previously defined period of time. This is essential for seeing if your website pages are growing or shrinking. Now that you know the tools, it's time to talk about planning and executing great SEO content. Tip 37, understanding your marketing funnel. Every business in the world has a marketing funnel that must be understood in order to grow your company. The most basic funnel includes a few key steps: awareness, consideration, conversion, loyalty, and advocacy. The goal of your business should be to guide someone from the awareness stage and take them step by step until they've reached the advocacy stage. With SEO, the top 3 steps of the funnel are the most important to remember. For example, if you run a shoe store, the keyword tips for running would be a part of the awareness stage, as it isn't targeted to a specific transaction from your store. The keyword best shoes for running would be appropriate for the consideration stage, as the person is considering purchasing a shoe. Having good SEO features on your individual product pages will represent the 3rd step of the marketing funnel. For example, gray running shoes for long distance runners. It's very important to know the role each page plays in your marketing funnel. Tip 38, map your keywords. Now that you know how a marketing funnel works, it's time to officially map your keywords to the appropriate stages of your marketing funnel. The easiest way to do this is to add all of your target search keywords from tools like Answer the Public or Ahrefs to a spreadsheet. Now, next to each keyword, type in which stage of the marketing funnel your keyword will be connected to. Remember, you should type in awareness, consideration, or conversion. Tip 39, planning your content. Once you mapped all your keywords, it's time to create a plan of action to address the most important keywords in your niche. I recommend using a calendar to place various keyword topics and plan out your content. My favorite tool is Notion, but you can use a simple Google Calendar if you want. Try to create at least one SEO content piece a week if you can. Tip 40, target competitive keywords, aka content clusters. As we mentioned all the way back in tip number 2, in the beginning, you should try to target long-tail keywords in a niche. Eventually though, you'll build up enough authority in your niche to expand to broader keywords. This is where content clusters come into play. A content cluster is simply a collection of pages on your site that surround a broad topic. For example, if you are targeting a term like LA travel tips, you might create content about the best places to stay in Los Angeles or 30 free things to do in Los Angeles. Each one of these smaller posts will help the SEO of your larger post when you decide to launch it. My favorite way to utilize this strategy is to simply outline what a very broad post on a subject would look like. Once I have the ideal outline of the long post, I will create entire blog posts of each one of the smaller sections. Once I've published the smaller standalone content pieces, I'll then move on to create a long post, aka a pillar page, using my previously published content as a resource. I recommend rewriting your content as you build out the longer post and backlink from the smaller pages to the larger one and vice versa. Now your broad post will have a good shot at ranking well in SEO. Tip 41, get backlinks. One of the primary ways in which you can grow the domain authority of your website or a specific page is to get other websites to link to your site. This is called a backlink. Here's the easiest way to generate a backlink. Once you publish a page or content piece, do a Google search for the keyword of that page. Click on the links that pop up. One by one, you can contact the author or owner of the website to see if they will link to your page. You'll find a template to an email like this below this video. Tip 42, guest post on relevant websites. One way to generate backlinks to your site is to write a guest post on a credible website in your niche. The easiest thing to do is simply reach out to such blogs and ask if they take guest submissions. Just remember to include backlinks to your website when you write the post. Tip 43, submit and optimize your website to other search engines. Google isn't the only other search engine in the world. When developing a search strategy, it's important to consider other unique places that may funnel traffic to your website. For example, if you run a service business or restaurant, you may want to develop a strategy for Yelp. Tip 44, use an SEO checklist. You can keep track of all of the tips included in this video by downloading the free PDF linked in the description below. Over time, you'll learn all of these SEO strategies without needing a checklist, but for now, I can't recommend using a checklist enough. Tip 45, always prioritize content over SEO. At the end of the day, the most important thing to remember with SEO is that it is secondary to simply creating great content. You can have the best SEO practices on your site, but if the content is bad, it won't make a difference. Always try to empathize with your target audience and put yourself in their shoes. Think of SEO as the cherry on top of the content sundae, not the other way around. If you've ever wanted to create a business from scratch using Squarespace, go check out The Curious Millionaire. Our online course will show you how to launch and test a business idea with helpful lessons and tools. If you want to learn more about online business, creativity, or succeeding in life, feel free to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.